So what we want to do now is, and this is a bit improv now because we didn't really plan this, but since Victor is here and I've worked on this, we'll try to do something now which may work, may not work. Some parts will definitely work, and I'll basically show you now where you can find LasTools, and let me go into zoom mode again. There you go. So if you how do you usually have to do it when you start? Maybe I should go there. It will most likely not work for you because, or actually it will probably work for you partly. There are some issues right now with the current version you have that should be fixed shortly. However, if you go into option and configuration, so again, processing, option and configuration, maybe I'm a little too zoomed in at this point. And you look at providers, you find something called Tools for LiDAR Data. And if you didn't see that, you didn't see that because this button wasn't checked. So there are two things you need to do in order to enable LasTools. You need to check that button. That only has one effect. You see the scripts. But that doesn't mean the scripts will work. The second thing is you have to install LasTools. You already have LasTools, I believe, installed from 2 days ago. And the third thing you need to do, you need to go to this spot here and you need to type the folder to where the LasTools folder is. You can also browse for this. Oh yeah, select directory. So I would go, in my case, it's on the D drive, LasTools, and it says select folder, and I get exactly what was there before. So as I said, I'm not entirely sure it's going to work for you. Usually I have people replace all their current Python scripts with my Python scripts that are actually inside the LasTools folder, but we don't want to do this today. If you want to do this at home, there is, and I'm not online right now. Where is he? Oh, thanks. Thanks for going offline. There's a blog article that is right now the second most popular article on the Rapid Lasso site. And if you go to, for example, tutorials, I think it's one of the tutorials. Or actually, it's easiest probably just to use the search box and type QGIS. And there's something, how to install LasTools toolbox in QGIS. And that's very, very detailed with many pictures how to do it. It has slightly changed. This was for QGIS 1.8, but the concept, I updated it. And then at the comments, there is a lot of comments. And especially many comments at the very end about that it doesn't work for some people. And so if it doesn't work for you at home, read through the comments, and at the very end you get the solution how you can do it with the current version that is online. So that's when you want to do it and something goes wrong. This is a place to look before sending me an email.
Please remember to add the no spaces, no brackets, no special characters in the folder name.
Yeah, that is understood by now, right? Also know what I recently found out, no, bracket to bracket. which is something I hadn't checked before. Okay, so now I go to, I have it open twice. Let me close the earlier version. So, and this you will not have, because this only exists since it only really exists on my computer. There's more than just LasTools. Here are all the LasTools like before. They always operate on one file. Single las or LATS file in, single las or LATS file out, or single raster or so on. Except the tile, of course, the last tile produces many outputs. In order to do batch processing, or process large amounts of files, there is, and this is still in progress now, the LasTools production. And LasTools production means, let's look at last ground. Just like in the ArcGIS version, you input a directory, and then you run on all files that match whichever wildcard you put here. You know, remember, this input directory may have las files called different names, like donkey1.las, donkey2.las, but you also only want to work on chicken1.las, chicken2.las, so you put, you would put chicken here, and then you wouldn't work on the donkeys. Was that funny? Okay, I didn't really mean to. For those who learned the command line and don't find all the parameters here, because it's very, also it's very elegant, this processing framework. I get sometimes tired of putting all the possible command line options there. So if you're an advanced user and you find something is missing there, you can actually type the remaining command lines right there. And then you select the number of cores. In your case, on these computers, it would be 2. And an output directory. So you basically always go from one directory to another directory. You could also just change the appendix. We did that before as well. But you have to be really careful with the naming so you know which files you're running on. Going from one clean directory to another clean directory tends to be safer. Okay, and the very newest thing that just exists, one existed yesterday, and then last night, after lots of bottles of wine, I added a few more. This is LasTools pipelines. So now under the hood, LasTools pipelines calls a whole number of LasTools to, for example, ground classify a large file. Why do I need a pipeline to ground classify a large file? Well, some large files are really big. If you have a 30-kilometer flight line, then it is impossible to load that into memory and do the ground classification there, just because I will run out of memory. What I would do then, I would input this flight line here, set all these parameters, and under the hood, this flight line then gets chopped into tiles of this size, and I need to have a bit of an idea what size would seem reasonable, so that each tile is small enough. Then it classifies each of the tiles, and at the end, it puts them back together exactly in the order they used to be. And there's a special option inside of LasTile, which is called Reversible Tiling, that allows LasTile at the very end to put everything back together the way it was before. And then you can basically, when you have a 130-kilometer strip, you break it into tiles, you classify each tile with a buffer, and at the end, you put them all back together in that single strip, all the buffers get removed, and the point get put back into the original order. So it looks like, you couldn't tell that it was done with a pipeline, because you go from one big file to another big file that's classified. And I implemented this as a beginning and also as an example, because you have the source code of all this. You can create your own huge file, first noise removal, then ground classify pipeline, because we saw that on certain Denmark data that we operated on yesterday, my simple ground classify pipeline will fail terribly. The one that's missing here, I didn't have enough time today, was the quality checking. And because in the ArcGIS toolbox there are right now 7 pipelines, and well, I think tomorrow on my flight back to Frankfurt I should add the last one. And then the pipelines in ArcGIS and QGIS are basically identical, and you can choose whichever one you want. However, these pipelines, we should be able to build them in the processing framework using the model builder. That is my hope. Now, I didn't know anything about the model builder before this lecture. I tried it myself once and it didn't go so well, and then I ran out of time, and I didn't go back to it because I figured one day I'll probably run into Victor and then he can explain it to me. And today was that day. So maybe we try to build a model now, and he's here so I can ask him, using only the single file tools or the multiple file tools, I don't know yet. Let's see which we have. The production. Oh, yeah. Maybe let's try to make a production pipeline that uses, also I haven't tested these 3 ones. So I implemented them, but I haven't really tested them very much. So maybe let's just do a single pipeline with starting with 1 file, do multiple operation, and produce a final classified file, or just a small one. Okay, well, let's just do that sort of together. So I start the graphical model, and now as input, I will need a LAS file. So I hope I can use this one here and ask it for a file, and the parameter name would be LAS or LAS input. Something like this? That should work?
Perfect.
Okay. Now what do I want to do first? I assume I have a tile that is not classified, so the first thing I want to do is ground classification. Okay, so I'll go, oh no, I think I go here, and I look for my algorithms, so I say LAS ground, here we go. So I click that, double click that, input LAS LATS file, LAS or LATS input. Now that sounds really good. And then I can, wow, why is this now yes? This is usually no. Huh, strange that it's yes.
Probably the moderator doesn't take the default values.
Okay.
They're just like putting the first value.
Because very few people, yeah, okay, that's interesting. Okay, yeah, everywhere it doesn't take the default value, I tell you, because wilderness is not my default value. Let's say we use we use city, and the pre-processing, oh yeah, it's definitely always uses the first one in the list instead of the default, and then we use fine, and then this is not the final result. So, and now the things become interesting, because usually the ending will tell it if it should use a LAS file or a LATS file as output. Now, if I can't give it a name, how will my algorithm behave?
So you mean
There is a compressed output and an uncompressed output possibility. I usually switch between the two by typing in a file name that is either LATS or LAS. By default, it will use LAS, which is not really what I want to use.
So if your provider actually should declare a default output or supported output, actually, and if you enter like a no file name, like a set to a temporary file, something like that, which is what we're going to do here. then it's going to use the first one of the ones declared as the supported ones.
Hmm.
So if you declare LAS and LATs, then it's going to use the first one
Oh, I didn't declare anything. So there's something missing in my
in your provider.
provider.
There should be a declare supported output.
Okay.
in there.
Is there any workaround?
No, I didn't see any workaround for that.
No workaround. Okay. Okay, I guess.
But it's like if you leave that as an output, then the user has to enter that. You can do that actually. Like, you know, call it intermediate file or whatever.
Okay.
And then the user should.
temp1.lats. Yeah? Or I call it. Right. Remember, I told you this is kind of unscripted here. We didn't talk about this before. We figured, you know, it's the end of the course. This is sort of how we work.
LasTools algorithms are really special because they don't generate like raster layers or vector layers. They don't generate anything that QGIS understands. They just generate LAS files.
So can I use this as input again?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, wonderful. Then we go this way. It's not the way we've done it before, but as long as we find a solution, we'll be happy. So after ground classification, we want to compute the height above the ground. So we take last height. And as input now, and this will give that file?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Do we want to normalize? No, we don't want to normalize. We also don't want to verbose, and it outputs so much data. And the output will be called height.lats. So where will this output go? Do we know?
No, you don't have to enter.
Oh, and what is?
Because that's not the file name. That's the name that you're showing to the user. So is that going to be your final?
No.
Then it says call it temp2 or whatever, or just leave it blank. But then the user will not be able to select anything. You can leave it blank actually.
No, but I need a name in order for LasTools to work. Well, what's this here, by the way?
That's to call other things, other parent algorithms. That depends on that, but you don't need that.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, call it like that, but that's not going to be the final name.
no, it's not going to be the file name.
It's not going to be height last. Then the user has to enter that. Yeah. Okay, yes, you can keep on going, then we'll see what happens.
Okay. Oh, I know what you mean. The user will have to enter multiple file names.
Yeah, that's it. All the names for the intermediate ones, because you can.
Okay, but you know, for
Yeah, it's the test.
then now I learned what I need to change in order to create these pipelines properly, so you don't have to enter all these extra names. And after that, we want to do a LAS classify, and no verbose. I take now the LAS. No horizontal feed, no vertical feed. I call this classify.lats.
And that's the final one? Oh. Wait, that's the final.
No, but this is one of the outputs. Basically, this has multiple outputs. This could be one of the outputs. Okay. And maybe now we want to, if we now have, is it possible to put something in front? Like now that I realize, oh, I forgot something at the beginning of the pipeline. Can I go back and add something to the beginning?
You can delete the things, but you cannot insert.
Okay. Then I will just run very quickly something by hand because I forgot to do one step. Oh, can I use this or do I have to close the modeler first?
You can use it. Should be able to use it. It's not a model window.
No, I can't use it.
Oh, then it's you don't have to do it.
Okay, now I want to do one more thing. I want to
Save it in
extract the boundaries. Last boundary. I want to filter based on the buildings. Keep class. Well, okay, I gave it away. Oh, maybe I should zoom in here a little bit. I forgot that. So I keep class 6. The input should be the classified one. Remember now I want to create a building footprint layer. So I said this is a pretty good default. GIS join polygons, yes. I want to turn off all the verboseness. And now this is my final one. This is my building, my footprint. Footprint dot shape. Oh no, again, it's going to ask me for that. Yeah, so it's just a name, right? Just
Yeah,
a name. Just a name. So yeah, so footprint should be good enough. But now I call them like this everywhere. So let's at least be consistently inaccurate. Okay. So this is now one of the other of my outputs. So I get all the intermediate one as output. That's actually not so bad because it for certain scenarios. How get I zoom in, zoom out? Is that somewhere here? Is there a way I can zoom into my model or zoom out so everything fits again in one?
No.
No? Okay. Anything else I want to do, or I want to go back to last ground? I want to edit it right here, and I also want to turn off the verbose, which I have forgotten initially. Imagine I wanted to expose one more thing, the terrain type, to the user as an input. How could I do this? I would have to program my thing differently.
Just close there.
Okay.
Then you go to the inputs.
In here?
No, in the other new input. In there. Just go down, down.
Down, down.
Inputs.
Inputs.
And if you go up.
Up.
See, okay, you don't have it. No, there's no options to select that. Actually, I don't have. So there's no way of actually adding an option like that.
So in the, I mean, you sure in the ArcGIS model builder I can go and say model parameter.
Yeah, in here you can take that. No.
So I would have to go and do that first and then connect it, right?
No, because you cannot add any parameter of type option actually.
Oh, okay. No selection parameters?
No selection parameter.
Okay. Next version.
Yeah, that's no selection parameter.
Okay. Now I want to save my model. Save. Oh, okay. This is again my models, and this is single file. Actually, bad. Single file. Classify and footprint extract. I guess you want which ones are names? Just is it actually just a name, a string that I can search for later when the model exists?
Yeah.
So this actually should then be like this.
Yeah, you can put it like that. Yeah.
And the other one, my models, is that also just a string or is that a file name?
No, the file name you select when you save actually.
Oh, okay. So in this case, for strings, spaces are fine. And now I say save. Okay. Now I just call it classify because now I'm tired of typing. Save.
That's it.
Okay, and now I can close it safely.
Now you go back to the toolbox. Or you close it.
Close it.
Close it. And then if you go to the toolbox, you should have your model there.
Here.
Yes.
My models.
No.
My models.
And if you double click on that, it should work. But I don't know how it's going to handle those files. Actually.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Save to temporary file. Okay, let's try this. Let's use an input. Oh, first let me generate an input that is believable. I'm going, oh yeah, I use the QGIS toolbox to generate the input also. So let me close this tool. That's what I wanted to do before, because I forgot to add the merge option. That's when I asked, so what I want to do, I want to merge several into one. I use the tool LasMerge. I don't use LasMerge very often, because LasTools can merge on the fly. But for this particular exercise, I'm now go to one of the, I think area 1. We worked with this before, so you sort of know what to expect, and I'm merging these 5 strips. I don't have the beautiful auto-complete like the batch framework has, so I just copy and paste, but that's also pretty nice. I know there were 5 strips. And so LasMerge can, up to 7 strips are supported. And then I output it to...
Why haven't you used like a multiple input instead of...
This is not the Pro version. This is LasTools. In LasTools Pro, there will be a...
You can use like the multiple version, multiple inputs, and then you just put them all together.
I don't think that will work. Like,
Let's see.
okay, and I save this now to the file I will be using. Wherever you want to put it, I want to put it in the same directory. Hello. Okay, I can't double click anymore. Oh, maybe it's because this thing is in the way. Okay. Oh. Jesus. And I call this merged.laz. So now I'm just using the toolbox to hopefully merge these 5 strips into one. You see, this toolbox doesn't have the advanced option yet. If it had the advanced option, where I can add my own additional parameter, command line parameters, I would put in the additional command line parameters minus files of flight lines. And then it would preserve the information about which file is from which flight line, which point is from which flight line. It's not supported in this menu here. I say run. And so you may be able to follow, you may not be. I don't know if you're... but this looks pretty good. Let me check if there's indeed now a LasMerge file in this directory. There we go, merged. I just created this, and it's everything merged. Okay, and this I will use as input for my pipe that I just created. So now I start my model. Let's see how this works. And remember, this is just a test. We've never done this before. Merge, where is it? There we go. The input, and now I need to give it a file name, I guess. And I will call it, ground. And I will call it height. And I will call it chicken. Save. And the funny thing is, it puts the slashes the other direction. And now when I say open output after running the algorithm, what will happen then? It'll open the shapefile and it'll say, I don't know what to do with the other ones.
Yeah, the other ones are going to be open.
They're not going to be
No,
open.
there should be an open output file after running algorithm. One checkbox for each output.
Ah,
that
okay.
It can open. So that doesn't refer to all the outputs. It refers to the footprint. The
Okay.
other one doesn't have the checkbox because there's no way it can open that file.
Okay. So this is now our newly created processing framework. And we have absolutely no idea what's going to happen now. So you should maybe take cover because this could get ugly.
Fingers and ears.
Run. And unfortunately, the progress bar isn't overly exciting because the LasTools don't report back progress currently. I wouldn't even know how to do that. Do other binary processes report back progress?
Yeah, they just, you write on the console and you read it.
How can I see the console? Oh, you read it back from the console?
Yeah.
Is there an agreed upon way of doing that?
Well, that's how, the only way you can get from Saga or from Grass is the only way. They just print on the console, like read it back and turn that into progress.
Yeah, but how do you know what their output to the console means in terms of progress?
Because I know the syntax that Saga uses, and you have to code that for each application. It outputs a lot of things, but whenever it's outputting something that is in progress, it's like whatever percent, so I just parse the output.
Ah, okay. Oh, wow. So I would have to add this to my toolboxes?
The LasTools print what are 10%, 20%, then you can parse the output and turn that into progress.
Okay.
So is it still working?
Yeah, it's still working. I mean, it's a lot of data.
It was working like on the first algorithm still, right?
No, I think it works on...
Because it hasn't showed any progress in there?
Oh, well, there's no progress indication. I don't know how to do that right now.
But if that's the model, it should show, like I'm running like the first algorithm, the second algorithm, the third.
Well, I didn't implement that. Would it do that automatically?
No, the modeler itself, when the modeler has several, it didn't.
Here's all the output. Model processed, executed 4 algorithms in total. And where's...
It worked!
Wow! That was pretty cool.
I'm seeing that it's pretty easy to remove the need to enter the file names.
Yeah, but we now also have the file names.
I mean, right now you cannot do it because actually it's going to
You see, we have the...
assume like a default extension.
This one. You see, in this one we didn't remove the clouds. In the batch script I showed you, the same one I showed you before, we had the clouds removed, but here there's the chicken, we have all the outputs, and it's all now generated with one simple processing pipeline. Wow, so it does work. There's a few tweaks to be done in order to avoid some outputs, maybe.
Sounds really, really simple to do.
Yeah.
To remove that.
But
you just declare like the output, the default output of that. When you declare the parameter output, the output file, you just declare like the default extension to be las or las, and then we'll just use it. Right now you cannot do it in your machine, but you cannot do that for the algorithm. But it's a change. It's a couple of lines, so we'll do it later today. We should be ready. Yeah.
That's really all I wanted to do. I wanted to try to, can we implement from scratch without ever trying it before, a totally new thing. There was a few hiccups because I didn't foresee that my scripts are to be used in processing, and don't know much about processing, so I didn't write them with anticipating that they'll be used in processing. So maybe in the afternoon or in the evening I'll learn what I need to change in my scripts, and apparently it won't be very much. And so in the future you can write scripts where you do not need to keep every intermediate file and specify every intermediate file as output. But we did go from a raw LiDAR file all the way to a polygon shape file directly in QGIS on the first try.
That's nice.
I was thinking about, you are leaving at 4:30 tomorrow? How much could be done until then?
Depends on how much we see.
4:30 a.m.
Yes, it's 4:30 a.m.
Depending. I mean, if I get a back massage the entire night. Okay.
So that should be it, right?
Yeah, well, I don't want to try anything else because I want to end on a positive note.
Very good.